Christmas is, by all accounts, supposed to be a time of cheer. But I think by adulthood, most of us know that it doesn't necessarily always work that way. Sometimes people can't make it. Sometimes the food gets burnt or tastes bad. Sometimes family conversations take an unpleasant turn. And sometimes your child goes missing. My name is Brienne, and I'm the host and creator of Among the Dirt and Trees, a show where we explore true crime cases that occur out in nature. In today's episode, we're going to discuss the case of Derrick Engebretson, an 8-year-old boy that went missing in the forest while he was looking for a Christmas tree with his family back in 1998. He would never be found. I hope that you all had a lovely week and managed to check out some cool content from other creators, and I owe you all a big thank you for carrying Among the Dirt and Trees over 100,000 downloads, even though there weren't any new episodes last week. This is a huge milestone, and honestly, it just doesn't seem real at all. I could give the obligatory speech about how this show has the best fans in the world, but honestly, I know very few of you and have no way of knowing whether or not I'll be covering your crimes on the show one day, so I'm just going to say seeing that number was really cool, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to it. Now, I'm gonna tell you guys a really sad story. The day was December 5th when the men in Derrick's family decided to head out into Winema National Forest to find a Christmas tree. Along for the trip was Derrick, his father, and his grandfather. 2 men and 1 boy ready to hunt down the best Christmas tree that they could find. Now, this is a normal thing, right? I mean, not for all of us, obviously. I know a lot of people buy synthetic trees, and the majority of others probably buy trees that someone else cut down for them. But still, there are some people who actually head out into the woods and chop down their own Christmas tree. And for a lot of families, it can be a pretty special experience. You can kind of rally together and go find the Christmas tree of your dreams, or at least I have to assume. I've never even carried a Christmas tree out of a hardware store, much less dragged one out of the woods. But even without this personal experience, I have to assume that there was a lot of excitement and joy in this family when these 3 ventured out. It was afternoon when they were searching, each making their own way through the snowy forest on foot. They had to find the perfect tree, and they were a little split up while they explored their options. Derrick's father was up ahead, Derrick's grandfather was behind him, and Derrick was supposed to be following his dad's snowy footprints to catch up with him. But they weren't all that far apart, at least not initially. At some point, Derrick's father and grandfather had a horrible realization. No matter where they turned, Derrick was nowhere in sight. He seemed to just disappear, like the snow had swallowed him up. But the snow was a friend here. The fact that they were walking through snow meant that they could easily search for signs of him. They followed his footprints, and they even found another clue along the way in the form of a snow angel. But this would actually be a point of concern. The snow angel was found by the road, and there weren't any other signs of Derrick. Understandably panicked, the men managed to get a message to police, and they told them that Derrick was gone. But even then, the concern wasn't that someone grabbed him. They simply assumed that he wandered into the forest and that he was just lost. And obviously, this was a huge point of concern for them. There was snow on the ground. It was December in Oregon. The risks to Derrick's health were significant and obvious. By evening, the police were on the scene. They were ready to cover as much ground as possible to recover Derrick and get him home safely. But nature had other plans. The weather took a bad turn and a blizzard swooped in. The blizzard was severe enough to shut down the search immediately, and that meant that Derrick would be spending the night alone in the woods during a blizzard. It's pretty obvious what police expected to find when the search continued. Surprisingly, Derrick's family actually thought he stood a chance. They said that he was accustomed to being in the woods, he had a snowsuit on, and he had general survival knowledge despite his young age. A makeshift shelter was eventually found in the forest, but police could never actually prove if it was his or not. But after the weather cleared, the search officially began. And this search would go on for weeks. While the snow was originally considered to be a good thing because it meant they could find tracks, that all went out the window when that blizzard rolled in. They had no way of knowing where Derrick went, or if he was in the forest at all. Remember how Derrick's tracks seemed to end near the road? This meant that, realistically, someone could have picked him up. And the passing of time told police that if someone had picked Derrick up, it was pretty clear that they didn't have good intentions. A concerned civilian picking up a young boy who is alone in the snowy woods makes sense, but if someone had picked him up, why wouldn't they have given him to police so that he could be reunited with his family? This would be even more strange given the fact that Derrick's disappearance would have been in local news. People were talking about it. So that meant that, realistically, one of two things probably happened. Either Derrick wandered out into the woods and ended up a victim of the elements, or someone picked him up that did not have good intentions. And police were actually really worried about that. There was, of course, the risk that some stranger could have swooped in and snatched Derrick up, but police were afraid that the truth might be even worse. They believed that Derrick might have been picked up by a stranger, but possibly by someone that was not a stranger to police. Their key concern was a man named Frank Milligan, who was a known and convicted child rapist. But they never proved it in court. Even though the man actually confessed that he killed Derrick, because he couldn't lead them to Derrick's body, they basically didn't have a case. Unfortunately, that still didn't rule out the option that someone took Derrick, and witness accounts would actually suggest that this was likely. One witness said that they saw a man struggling with a school-aged boy at that very location. Is it possible that what this person thought was a normal issue with the kid was actually them witnessing a child abduction? Over 2 decades later, we still don't know, and Derrick's family still wants those answers. Unfortunately, like I said, he was never found. So, if you would like to discuss what to do if you find yourself trapped in a blizzard, ways to stay connected in the woods, or the simple joy of making a snow angel, feel free to contact me on Twitter or Instagram using the tag @datpod. Thanks, guys.